Everyone, welcome to the talk about building an unlicensed 802.11 particle accelerator, known as the Pwnton Pack. And so just a bit about me real quick. I know we don't have a lot of time. My name is Travis, W9HX. I am headquartered out of Madison, Wisconsin. So I love everything beer, cheese, bratwurst, and Packers in that order. For my day job, I do penetration testing with TrustedSec. So not just building Ghostbuster packs, but I also work too. We got a MadSec meetup group. That's our local meetup group that I kind of help put together and help coordinate. And then lastly, I'm an avid Ghostbusters fan. I was born in the 80s child. And so growing up, Star Wars wasn't really my thing. I like Top Gun and I like Ghostbusters. And so fast forward, 30 years later to this year when Ghostbusters Afterlife was released. And for Christmas, my in-laws got me a replica Spirit Halloween Pwnton Pack. I'm like, that's awesome. Kind of a neat little nostalgic throwback. And so last Christmas, I unwrapped it. My kids, I have 3 kids. They like, what is that thing? That looks cool. So we went down in the basement, and the whole premise was like, my kids were like, we want to go down, like bust some ghosts, try this thing out. So, it kind of lights up, does some sounds, and like, we play around and they're like busting some makeshift ghosts or imaginary ghosts. And they're like, Dad, does this pack actually do anything? And it kind of got my mind wandering like, it doesn't do anything yet, but we certainly could make it do something. So over the next 3 months, we put together what I call the Pwnton Pack. It's a pack with a wireless attack arsenal built in. And the whole premise was I had this pack, I was looking at it, and I always had a bin full of like Arduino devices, things that I always wanted to do something with, Raspberry Pis and so on. We really never had a project to see through its end. It's just really like I could make like a thermometer or something, but I'm like, what could I make to have this pack do something? And so I started out with an LED matrix display. I got it on there. It made some text scroll. I'm like, that's cool. Let's go with the servo. So the antenna at the very top here, this alpha antenna, has a servo that spins back and forth on it. I'm like, all right, I learned something. I learned how to program a little bit with Arduinos. And I started gluing stuff on, and sure enough, it turned into this Franken Geek pack. So what does this pack do, features-wise? First of all, we have rogue access points. So this is built on the Wi-Fi pineapple that's inside. So everything the pineapple does, when your phone's in your pockets, beaconing out for networks it's connected to in the past, this pack will see those beacons, spin up those access points on the fly, and you can get people to associate to it. So rogue access points, it does spectrum analysis, which is really cool, real-time spectrum analysis with the neutronoland here. It's got a built-in microcontroller, so you can scan 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. You can select targets you want to go after, all via the wand, and you can then de-authenticate those targets. Speaking of then we go into WPA attacks. That's going to be built off the Pwnagotchi project, if anyone's used Pwnagotchi here in the past. It's going to harvest those ePUL frames so you can capture those handshakes, take them offline, crack them later on. And then I mentioned the de-authentication attacks. You can use targeted de-authentications on both the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz spectrums. So if you see those clients, if they're active, you can knock them offline briefly. They will re-authenticate. This pack will see those authentication packets. Again, take them offline, crack them, do what you want to. So features of the pack, we got a few high gain antennas. These are 2.4 gigahertz. We got a Pwnagotchi right here. Unfortunately, when I shipped this pack out here, a few solders got damaged. So some of that stuff's not working right now. Didn't have a soldering iron, and I didn't want to tear it apart last night, but LED matrix display that normally scrolls text, again, got damaged with the shipping. Management radio, that's for your Wi-Fi pineapple interface, which I skinned to like a Ghostbusters theme. It's pretty cool. Your panning antenna that pans back and forth, that's just kind of eye candy, but it's pretty cool. It's functional. Neutronoland that detaches, and then also it's got the microcontroller on the side, so you can target your 2.4 gigahertz clients. And then lastly, all through a directional 2.4 gigahertz Yagi antenna here, the red antenna. Hardware, what's under the hood, we got a Pi 4. That's powering your Pwnagotchi display with the e-ink. That's going to be for, it's got an external antenna. That's for your 5 gigahertz attacks. It's also got the Mark 7 pineapple in here for all those pineapple style rogue AP, evil twin attacks. You can kind of see some of the guts in here. We got the Pi, the pineapple, a proprietary soundboard, Arduino Nano up here, and there's also one other microcontroller that's on the wand. So here's the hardware in action. This is the Pwnagotchi. The thing that's not working right now. One thing neat with it is I kind of customized the Pwnagotchi to do all Ghostbuster quotes. So you got Do Re Egon, There is no Dana, only Zool. Are you the keymaster? It cycles through all your typical Ghostbuster stuff. And again, that's going to be for harvesting ePOL handshakes. We have the some of the microcontrollers. And this was kind of what spawned the whole project for me, was learning how microcontrollers work, wanted to program some stuff. So here it is all. One shout out is I use a site called WOKWI. It's like a virtual lab. You can start piecing these things together, doing wiring without ever having to lay a bead of solder or programming it. So if you're into any kind of hardware hacking, this WOKWI site is really cool. And I got that tiny URL. You can actually see the code that's running on the Pwnton Pack right there. So tiny URL whack, Pwnton Pack. 3 separate microcontrollers, the Arduino Nano that I never had used before, but that's powering both the matrix display and the servo. You got the FrankenGeek light and sound board. That's the proprietary board for all the like spinning lights, the boot up sequence, which I'll turn on here in a second. And then lastly, a microcontroller for your neutronoland. Speaking of the neutronoland, here it is in action. You'll see it power up here and allows you to, again, scan the 2.4 gigahertz, figure out who you want to go after, target. You can go after APs, clients. You can go after a whole network and you can start knocking them offline and whatnot. And that's all, again, all real time. You're holding it in your hand. And that was important to me. I wanted to have something like when you're holding it, have it do something. It's always cool, like point and attack. I've always wanted to do that. Like, how do you fire a virtual attack at something? And this is how you do it. We have power management. So the pack actually has quite a bit going on with between the Pineapple, the Pi, the microcontrollers. So it runs 12 volt and a 5 volt output. And I actually built in 2 rocker switches at the bottom of this guy, so I can toggle those on as and if needed. So that way your Pineapple doesn't suck down all your power. And I learned a lot too, because I was drawing a lot of power off all these things. And so some things would short out, some things weren't working. So really for me, it was, again, a learning process of how to power these things efficiently, get power where it needed, because like the soundboard needed 12 volts as opposed to the 5 volts. Software, it's running, again, the Wi-Fi Pineapple software. I just kind of skinned it, made it my own, but I've always loved their stuff. I've used it for years. And so you can see I just kind of threw a Ghostbuster skin on there. And that allows you also a framework. So rather than just doing rogue access point attacks, you could do like man in the middle, more advanced stuff if you wanted to like do DNS poisoning and whatnot. Really, the Pineapple is the beginning, not the end of what the pack can do. And then here's just a little demo of the pack in action. I guess I don't have audio here. Rather than, that's a video backup. So actually, let's show you what the pack can do here. So I take off my neutronoland here. First, we'll get it booting up. And you'll see that the displays here, this is where I can manually go through and select what networks are available. You'll get a real-time like line graph of what networks are busy. So right now this is channel 6. Obviously, it's very busy, very populated. You go to like channel 4 here, and you'll see that line kind of should flatline here, which it's now starting to flatline. You can then, once you find those channels, select your targets you want to go after. So in this case, I'd select like DMG for your local network. Select that, go into deauth mode. And since we're in that mode, we can then deauthenticate those clients. They now just lost connectivity. They reauthenticate, and those handshakes are being captured by these antennas right here. You can then take that offline, crack it, do what you need to. Other neat things about the pack is I built in a little soundboard kit here. So a little hard to hear is playing some movie soundtracks. So you got like an intro theme, you got the Ghostbusters theme, Ray Parker Jr.'s and Bobby Brown. And really, in a nutshell, that's the pack. I wish some of the other components were working, again, damaged and shipping. But with that said, any other questions or statements or anything? Yeah. So it's about a 3-month project. Again, I got it for Christmas, and over the next 3 months, we were just kind of gluing things on. Really, there's no rhyme or reason I put things where I did or what, but it was kind of about a 3-month on and off, just fiddling with things, learning how to solder and get things wired and working. So yeah, it's kind of a labor of love, really. Yeah. A good question. I don't think I've ever tried to like capacity test it yet, but I mean, as far as it can, I mean, it's a directional Yagi. It might be limited by the microcontroller, how much that can put out, because there's not a lot of power behind it. But yeah, I haven't really tested it too far as like, can I point and knock things out? But yeah. Yeah.
Off the shelf
The battery pack, yeah, just 2 from Amazon. I just had to make sure one was a 12-volt output and one was a 5-volt. Yeah. All right, that's all I got, guys. Thanks for coming to see more about the Pwnton Pack.